Hey, it's Riley, and welcome back to another segment of Overkill Reviews, and welcome to my first review of 2022. I hope everyone's had a good start to the year, and if you're new, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, and make sure to check out the Patreon. Recently, I started a little Etsy shop selling, buying, trading old and used vintage metal merch. It's Croak Vintage on Instagram and Etsy, so if you're into that kind of thing, just like I am, definitely make sure to check it out for me. And if you haven't really had a kick-ass start to the year, this is the album that is going to kick your ass into having a kick-ass start to this year. Their suffering cannot be undone. So Shoutout and 10 are pretty fresh in terms of years active. They're not even a decade old yet, and they have quite the following and fan base, which is always exciting to see and usually means that bands are pretty good if they've picked up the pace so quick, especially considering they were a group that kind of started off as Halo enthusiasts. No hate, just typically not really my thing. They were formed in 2014 and they hail from the New England region of the US of A. They were started by vocalist Ben Durr and guitarist Chris Wiseman. They now have Andrew Moniz on bass and Bryce Butler, who you also may know from working with Deep Breath In, Veil of Nath, Lord Mantis, Araya, Abigail Williams, Lizard Professor, Entombment, The Faceless, Bro Job, Lorna Shore, Valiant Crusade, and the list goes on. He's a really good friggin' drummer. They're technical, they're melodic, they're symphonic, and they're deathcore-y. They've had 3 full lengths prior to this one, and like I said, they've gained a following pretty friggin' quick. So let's see what all the hype is about. So the first song on the album is called Farewell, but it's definitely a hello for us. It has such a great build-up. It starts out with this orchestrated grab that ends up getting annihilated, like absolutely annihilated by like this intense symphony, these epic riffs, these grueling vocals, this thunderous drums. They've got the gang vocals in there too. It's one of those things where the song has such an intense build-up and it gets so strong so fast that it takes the atmosphere and just like butt fucks it into the void of legendary, telling you what's up right off the bat. Shoutout and 10 is one of those bands that was in this stew of other bands that I think a lot of them get stuck in repetition and sometimes a lack of originality, but they were able to break out of that like congealed filmed surface and set a like triumphant example for all of these other bands. There's so much going on with what they do and their sound and the history of their discography, but somehow they figured out how to take every single piece and make it complement each other so well, and I think that's what's taking them to the top, and we can tell right away with this album that they are continuing this. It leads me into thinking. The other day, my boyfriend was telling me about how the band Tool got their name, which was something I had never known before. He was explaining to me that Tool chose their name because they see themselves as tools for their art to be channeled through them from another world or another astral plane, and they are just there as the figure to create this beautiful piece from another dimension. And when I listen to Shadow of Intent, it sounds otherworldly to me. They figured out how to take all of these little puzzle pieces and make it fit perfectly, whether that be like the symphonics, the deathcore aspect. They even kind of do like black metal screeching. There's just so many different things that they've been able to piece together, and it feels like something that isn't natural, but it's natural at the same time. It's like sound encapsulating space, and that makes all the difference. Back to the tracks. One of the ones I want to talk about is Life of Exile, because it took me by surprise a little bit. So it's track 6, and it has cleans. It has clean vocals. Clean, like vocal, like I am dead serious. It has cleans, which was something that really took me back. I guess I've grown so used to Dur's powerful growls and his outstanding harsh range that I never even stopped to think like maybe this guy can sing too, and he can fucking sing, and it fits so well. This is just another aspect to what I'm talking about when I say they have all these pieces and they just fit it together so perfectly. Another shock for me is that one of the guest vocalists on this album is fucking Chuck Billy from Testament. Like old school thrash meets new age deathcore. We are clearly living in the future. This is never, ever, ever what I expected. And again, it just kind of works out. Chuck Billy is such a classic. And I love him. And besides our regular program vocals from Dur, and then obviously our guest appearance from Chuck Billy, the song to me is also probably the thrashiest on the album. The opening track is literally just a 1987 Testament, the Legacy riff, except they speed it up a little bit and they throw it into this mountain of calculated core techniques. So I think to have such a strange mix of vocalists on here, it is the perfect spot for Chuck Billy to be. And he's definitely more of a growler than a screamer, but it just fits so well. And their voices are so different, but they complement each other. And in proper technical and deathcore fashion, their production is perfect. And they never lack any type of blast beats or breakdowns. There's songs that harness their more symphonic and melodic side, like of Fury. And then they have their songs that harness that more deathcore and technical side of things, like Where Millions Come to Die, which has the Whitechapel vocalist Phil Bozeman on it. Like, there's something for everybody, but it just hits so much diversity. And when I usually think of like deathcore, I think the last thing in my brain that makes sense is like deathcore and symphonics. And over the past few years, this has clearly been something that's being done. I think there's few bands that do it and fewer bands that do it well, other than like Winds of Plague, and Lorna Shore is pretty cool too. But yeah, they are absolutely killing it. And like I said, they're just taking all those right pieces, and it's indulgent and it is rich. The one negative thing I guess I could talk about is that for the genre that it is, it's long. Clocks in at about an hour long and there's 13 tracks. When I listen to, you know, Doom, for example, it's slow and it drags out, so I expect it to be going on for a longer period of time. But when I'm listening to deathcore and fast tunes, I can only run so hard for so long before I'm like, are we coming to the end yet? You know, fast albums, fast tunes that clocks in at the perfect time, probably like 40 minutes, you know, like Vervum's Illuminance is a good band. That is like the perfect album length for that genre type. Obviously that album's a little more technical than this, but that is just like that perfect sitting point for me. The other thing was the last album, Melancholy, had a few more of those bang and breakdowns that I like to see, and impactful hooks. But other than that, minimal complaints. So at the end of the day, this album is fun, it's fast-paced, the production is crystal clear, they're throwing me curveballs and they're keeping me entertained and excited and anticipating these other new things like Chuck Billy or those clean vocals. They've got those black metal squeals, they have the death metal chugs, they've got the obliterating drums. It's just balance supreme. This album is just balance supreme. And with that being said, I'm gonna give it like a 4.3 out of 5 skulls today, because I can never make up my mind, and 4.3 just feels right. And now it's time for my shoutouts. The first one I have for you is Aethereus, and this is their album Leiden. For some reason, I feel like I've talked about this band before. They're from Tacoma, Washington, and their album came out January 14th via the Artisan Era. And if you like all things technical, the Artisan Era is the label for you. So if you have that devotion to them, definitely check it out. This album has guest appearances from the dudes in Inferi, the dudes in Equipoise, Flub, Vitriol, so it's just all around a good album. Give it a listen. Second of all, I have Vaino with, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Metsanpeitto. It came out January 14th, 2022. This is their debut album, and they're not to be confused with the extreme metal band from Finland, Vaino. This is the black metal Vaino from Finland. I could relate their sound to like Havu Krunu. It's just two dudes exploring themes from, you know, Finno-Ugric folklore and making it into some wicked black metal with a melodic touch, and I really enjoyed it. And then this one is one I just want you to keep your eyes out for because their last album I really dug and I'm excited for this. So this is Vehemence. The album is called Ordalies. They are a epic medieval black metal project from France. Their last album came out in 2019 and it was called Par le sang verse. And it was just so good. The theme with the music, I was just so floored, and I think that they're talking about releasing their new album in the beginning of March, so just keep your eyes peeled, and fingers crossed, it's just as sick as the last one. Thanks for coming and hang out with me today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.